Greetings, my name is Megan Huffstetter and I'm a financial analyst with Region 4 for the Division of Local Government Finance. In this presentation, we're going to review the budget ordinance for municipalities. As always, please feel free to reach out to our office if you need any help at all. So the basics. Tennessee Code Annotated 91116 requires that all governments in Tennessee appropriate money that is available before any monies are spent. In other words, you can't spend money unless it's been appropriated for. The Municipal Budget Law of 1982 sets forth the minimum requirements for a proper budget ordinance. In other words, this portion of the code defines the proper budget ordinance. So the budget ordinance itself. At a minimum, the ordinance must contain revenues and expenses for each fund, estimated ending fund balances for that current year, a statement of outstanding debt and principal payments that are due in the upcoming budget year, and a statement of pending capital projects and the source of financing for those. The budget ordinance may contain a property tax levy, or the levy may be done separately in a different ordinance. If it is done separately, please be sure to include that within your budget submission. Revenues and expenditures. So these must be presented in a 3-column format. First, we have the actuals for the previous fiscal year, then the full year estimates for that current year, and the budgetary estimates for the upcoming fiscal year. Revenues. Revenues need to be identified by source, so use the major revenue categories presented in your audited financial statements. For example, local taxes, license and permits, intergovernmental revenues, charges for services, fines and forfeitures, and uses of money and property, as well as any proceeds of debt that will be used in that budget year and any planned transfers in from other funds. Please note that the use of fund balance is not a revenue, so please do not include that within the revenues. The major revenue categories will be specific to each fund. So for example, within the State Street Aid Fund, which is a special revenue fund, it could include state gas and motor fuel taxes, gas tax increase, debt proceeds if that debt will be issued in that budget year, and of course, any transfers into the fund that may be budgeted. Expenses must also be identified by the fund and by major category. Please be sure to include the beginning and ending cash balances. The change in the cash balance represents the difference between the budgeted revenues and expenses. If the planned spending is greater than the budgeted revenues, this will be a negative number. This is important as the governing body will need to see whether they are planning to spend more than they expect to receive. If this is the case, your budget may not be structurally balanced. So this section of the budget ordinance should identify what the estimated ending fund balance is for each fund at the end of the current fiscal year, not the budget year. So for budget year 2022, enter the estimated ending fund balance at June 30th, 2021. The statement of debt included in the ordinance should include the name of each debt issue as presented in your audited financial statements, and include the amount of any debt authorized and as of yet unissued, the principal amount that will be outstanding at the end of that current fiscal year, and the budget principal and interest payments. The budget ordinance should also contain a statement of capital projects pending for that budget year, as well as projects planned for the near future. It should also include how much is expected to be financed by cash reserves or new debt proceeds. As we mentioned previously, the property tax levy may be included in the budget ordinance, or the tax may be levied in a separate act. Enterprise funds may be included in the budget ordinance. Please note that regardless of whether the enterprise funds are included in the ordinance, you must send our office the detailed line item budget for any enterprise funds. If the city or town has its own school system, each school fund's budget must be appropriated and the detailed line item budget included in the budget package you send to our office. Here are a few special reminders. First, please make sure that the budget ordinance is assigned and dated and the copy is a certified true and correct copy of the original document. Second, scan and email the budget to lgf@cot.tn.gov. Please do not send hard copies. Make sure that the amounts appropriated and the amount of planned spending are equal in the line item budget. In other words, the amounts in your ordinance should match the supporting documents that you're sending to our office. If they don't, we will most likely ask you about that. Remember that the property tax levy may be in the ordinance or it may be enacted separately. If it is separate, please remember to send in a copy of it. Also, be sure to include beginning cash and fund balances for each fund. A sample ordinance is available for download on our website. Please remember to submit your complete budget to lgf@cot.tn.gov. Please do not send hard copies to the office. Thank you so much for joining us, and do feel free to reach out if you need any assistance.